So I'm Pastor Hayden. If you guys don't know me, I'm been part of this for since it started, this church. But anyways, this is typically my Sunday to preach, and Pastor D started the This Is Us series, which I love the This Is Us series. I just didn't know that we would be part of it. I like it better when I'm sitting back there video and listening to you guys. I'm excited for the Cubs. They don't look very excited right there, not at all. And the Lingrens, I'm excited for the next couple of weeks, what God's gonna use your guys' stories for. But today, this is gonna be our story. This is my wife Tara, and we'll let her do all the talking because I'll preach at the end. So
no, that is not.
If you guys have been here on Wednesday nights, you've already know who she is. She sits up here and argues with me.
Yep.
And yes, Tony, I went back and watched the video yesterday, so I know exactly what she said when I stepped out to take the phone call. If you were here Wednesday night, that's why you're laughing. I had some emergencies happening at work that I had to answer the phone. And I come back in, and she looks over, stops talking, and the whole crowd starts laughing. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to watch the video. So
it wasn't bad.
It wasn't good.
I had done something I had to repent for, and I told everybody, but I didn't really want to tell him. So.
But no, this is our story, and the This Is Us series, and it's going to be all in. Is what we want to talk about today.
Really, I never thought anybody would ever want to hear our testimony because we don't have any of those big, like, oh, we were this way and now we're this way moments in our life. But I think after I prayed about it, I think a lot of people are like us. You might have grown up in church. You might have, known about Jesus. You were living your life the best you could. Nothing really big happening. And then God shows up. And I can tell you from the outside, we probably don't look much different than we did before, but we are different now after God showed up. So Hayden and I are middle school sweethearts. We are high school sweethearts and college sweethearts.
Well, I was still in high school in that picture where I look like Eminem.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's the only claim to fame I got. That, and what was that other guy's name? Brian Austin Green.
Yeah,
that's who I got confused for in high school. I don't look like, I may look like Brian Austin Green. He's pretty old now. So.
Yeah.
But no, so you were in college there. I was still in high school because she's older than me.
I
Shocking,
am older.
huh? That's the most shocking news you're going to hear all day.
Yeah, I am older. And then we got married. We both got saved. We grew up in church, both got saved at a very young age. And then when we started going to a church as adults, we had some questions about whether we were saved because we had not necessarily been living like we were saved. And so on a Sunday night in 1999, we both got saved here at the Baptist church in town. Mm-hmm. And we were really, for a couple of years, on fire for the Lord. We went to church regularly. We served. We did anything we could until we had our first baby. If anybody here knows what I'm getting ready to say, life changed, and things got a lot harder. And we tried our best to go to church still, but every time I took him to the nursery, he cried and cried and cried. Thank you, Holden, back there who's watching. And I just felt like, and I know there's some mamas out here doing this, I felt like, man, it is not worth it. Why am I coming? Like, I'm having to sit back in the nursery with him. I don't hear the message. I'm getting up and trying to get him up, and I'm tired. And I was like, this isn't worth it. Why am I doing all this? And we kind of quit coming. Mm-hmm. And I was so wrong because I'm just going to tell you now, it's very important to keep that habit going. Yeah. Not only that, but your kids learn that on Sunday morning, you get up and you go to church. Yeah. And we were so wrong about that. We were so wrong. And I regret that time. I regret that Holden missed that. But
he turned out okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, and so we stopped going, and it got to the point where even when we started trying to go back to church, if Mama didn't get up and go, none of us were going.
Yeah.
On Sunday mornings, we would hang out in bed. We would be really quiet, thinking, well, if she doesn't realize it's Sunday, maybe we won't go to church. And I'll be honest, that was me. Like, that was mainly my leading of my kids. Is that not sad? But so, once again, it didn't take much for us to step away from church where all of a sudden we were in the wrong crowds.
Yeah.
Quickly, real quickly. So we started running around some people. They were good people, but just doing some bad things. And once again, I would just do it with them. I got to where, honestly, I liked whiskey a little too much. I have a very addictive personality. I always said I could not even remotely start drugs because I'd probably already be dead.
Yeah.
I have that kind of an addictive personality. I'll be honest with you guys, like I use that for the word now. Like,
yeah.
That's why people's like, how are you like in the word so much? Because I do have that personality. So I noticed myself going down a trail real quick with alcohol that was going to be dangerous for me. For another thing, because it didn't affect me too much. In fact, she even said a few times, I think you get smarter when you drink. That's a scary statement.
He started talking about things. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Who's this?
I didn't have hangovers. I didn't have none of that. And so I was becoming a very scary alcoholic quick. But we started, if we did go to church, it was just a box check. Like, I'll go just to check that box to make myself feel better. But for a little bit, we didn't even do that very much.
No. But we did. We realized after we had London, we needed to get back into church.
Yeah.
We wanted our boys to have that foundation. We knew it was important. And so we started going back to church. And after several years, we just felt this nudge that God was moving us. And it wasn't because there was anything wrong with that church. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know why we were needing to move. And so I felt the nudge and he did too, for about a year. We dug our feet in and said, we're not leaving. Why would we leave? You know, we loved our church. We loved our pastor. But we needed to move. And so we thought we would just go to another church and just see if we were right, if God was moving us.
Yeah, and so we walked in that day. It was Highway Nazarene. Another reason we went there is because our kids were starting to get plugged in there.
Yeah.
Usually if you guys, kids sometimes drag their parents to wherever they're going. And
that's why kids is so important over here. Yeah.
And as a parent, we knew our kids were enjoying the programs over there. Holden was in youth over there. And we knew some people, obviously knew some great people that went to this church. And so I walked in that day, and I remember a buddy of mine, Chris Gray, that we grew up with. He was on stage leading worship, and we walked in. I think we got there they just started.
Maybe.
And
we didn't know what time it started.
His look just totally changed. I'm like, well, I mean, I've been here. Listen, there's people walked in when I preached. I'm like, what are they doing here? You know, like, hey, well, that's awesome. They're here, but why are they here? He kind of had that look. And then a couple weeks later, they come up and told me that they had been praying for somebody that could come and do a video ministry in that church. And, of course, I had the gear.
They'd been praying for a year, by the way.
Yeah, about the same year that we had felt like we needed to make a move that we didn't even know we were making. So I got plugged in with Pastor Mark. There was a church in Houston, I believe. Yeah, they were doing a church plant in Houston, Missouri that didn't have a pastor. So we would record Highway's sermon. I would mail it to him, and he would show it the following week. We're 1 week behind. I'd edit, send it to him. And so that's what I was doing there for the church. We were basically getting a church plant going there in Houston, which is still going. And so that's, you know, we felt that calling away from the church, had no idea why. We left on great terms. We had a meeting with the pastor, and he's like, listen, if God's moving you, there's a reason. Yeah. We're like, yeah, but we don't know what it is. He said, you're not going to know until you go. And I still remember that. You know, you're not going to know till you go. And so we went. You can see there's London serving. That was apple pie making day. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't that the day Kyle busted a big glass and got in a bunch of the pies? We had to throw them away. Kyle Gray. You remember that? Yeah. He shattered some glass on the table. We had to throw away a ton of pies the kids had just made because we didn't know if there was glass in it. You can't do an auction with pies with glass in it. No, you can't. Like,
you may have glass in this pie. You may not. Who knows?
Whoever finds the glass is the winner. So we moved there. Started serving in video. I started serving in youth with Dustin and Shayna. Didn't know them real well at that time. Dustin had some great onion messages. I mean, right, Shayna? Yeah. Peeling the onion. She looked at us one night. She's like, if he says to peel that onion one more time, I'm going to kill him. Yep. Like, it's coming. But no, so we started serving there. I know, Tara, you started serving with, I lost her name, writing cards with Wilma. Shannon and Trish were serving there. Shannon was with the young men. he was always outside playing games with them, and Trish was serving in the kids. So we got to know a lot of people that we still know and still are great friends with. And even a lot of them that still don't go to church with us now, we're still great friends with from that time.
Got you.
Oh, yeah. So as we were serving, we studied for a little while, but, as we were still serving that church, just once again, things started coming up. We bought a place at the lake. 8-year-old me would have called myself absolutely rich. I had a boat. I had a camper. I wanted to be at the lake every weekend. And I look at those times, and they were great times. But I was also keeping my kids out of church at a very important time. There's me with a giant fish in the back of Mr. Barnett's. No, that's out of the. I don't know where that.
I actually picked that on purpose because I just thought it was hilarious.
That's a giant. Thanks for that picture, by the way.
You're welcome. There was a bunch with big fish. I didn't pick.
And
those.
not only that, but that's a picture of London in a fishing tournament. I had London and Braden, James's boy, and James had Dawson and Holden, and they fished the high school series, and all that was great. But I was definitely, if it was decent weather, we would be at the lake and not at church. I had made that decision. That's what I was going to do. And like I said, 8-year-old me would have thought I was absolutely rich. But I was also really neglecting my family on what I should be doing.
Yeah, so about this time, we were having a great time. We were going to church, but we didn't talk about the Bible at home. We didn't talk about Jesus. We didn't talk about Scripture. We would talk about relationships in the church or things that might have happened at church, or we'd go to home groups and we'd have fun with friends and all this stuff. But at home, we didn't talk about that really. And if I tried to say something about Jesus to Hayden, he'd do this, uh-huh. And then he'd just be gone. We just didn't talk about it. And so we'd go to church, and every week I'd go to church. I don't know if there's anybody out here like this. I would vow that this is the week I'm going to change. I'm going to read my Bible this week. I'm going to pray more this week. I'd get that conviction at church. And then before I knew it, it was Sunday again, and I had not changed a thing. I was back where I was thinking, oh, really, I thought I was going to do it this week. So this week is going to be the week that I buckle down, I'm going to read my Bible every day. Is there anybody else out here that's ever sat there and thought, this is the week I'm going to change. This is going to be it.
This is it. Yeah.
And so nothing would change, and I'd be right back and say the same vows.
Yeah, and so we were, like I said, we would still go to church, especially in the winter. It was too cold to be at the lake.
We were great winter churchers.
But then
Great
sometimes, I'll be honest, and sometimes deer season got in the way.
I still went, and I would be mad at him because he wasn't there.
But, and we were still going. We were still serving. We were there on Wednesday nights serving, but I was letting worldly things just take the place of it. When it's fine that those worldly things are still fine and awesome. Like I said, we had some unbelievable times on the water. But I could have made those times Friday night and Saturday night and still come home on Sunday. Or even at best, I could have brought a little bit of church to the camper.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't I lead a Bible study? Looking back, why didn't I do anything in those moments? Because those are awesome moments that I could have done that, and I didn't. So, so things started changing about that time. We left that church that we were serving in for circumstances that don't need to be talked about. You guys, a lot of people in this church is in this church because you've been through something at a church. I hope most of you haven't been through as many as some other people in this room. Church gets ugly sometimes. Bad things happen, but bad things happen for a reason. And typically when those bad things happen, in the moment you can't see it, but we left that church and we drifted around for about 10 months. Started Proclaim Ministries, where I started videoing once again for just kind of offering free service to churches for Facebook commercials, stuff like that. Started just traveling around, looking. We were really secretly looking for a home church.
Yeah.
Without looking for a home church. And went to some awesome churches, some great services, but nothing felt right. It didn't matter where we went, just nothing felt right, couldn't settle. We had some good times and shot some good stuff for people that helped them maybe grow their church, but we just couldn't find a home.
So then we started renovation. I'm not going to go into that story because it's really not about that. But we started renovation in our basement, and that was really hard because what that meant was Hayden and I had to surrender our home. And that was the moment things started to turn, is when you surrender everything that you've worked for. We surrendered our home. We surrendered our time.
That's us on
That-
the first, I think the
starts to
first
change.
service.
Yeah, I
And
don't know
I'll
if you
tell
can
you
see
right
that.
there, my head's down, I'm praying with my wife, but I promise I ain't praying out loud.
No, he's still not praying out loud into that.
Yeah, he was talking about it today in the huddle. When we started, not even when we started this church, even when we was in the storefront, if he'd asked me to pray, I would just went out the back door.
He would
I'd
have.
be like, yeah, I'll see you later, man.
He would
It
have.
was a
He
good
would have
service,
walked
but,
away and
so-
embarrassed me to death. I would have been embarrassed to death, but he would have left.
But yeah, so we surrendered our house. We had an empty room that was a photography studio from back in the day, and it is weird. It was weird for us to invite people to church at our house. It was really, really weird for the other 8 to 10 people that we're starting this crazy thing with, is to invite people to somebody else's house for church.
Yeah, we want you to come out to Hayden and Tara's
yeah.
church with us. They were like, I'm not going to somebody else's house.
But honestly, we surrendered the house over. Things started changing. We moved to town. Funny story on the picture on the left with Shayna's face there. I had just had major shoulder surgery, and she calls to ask, is this the mud for the sheetrock? FaceTimes. Like,
Yeah.
what? Well, I'm going to do this sheetrock. Is this the mud?
We got blind ladies wanting to do the mud for sheetrock.
I am on some pretty high-powered painkillers.
That was the day after.
Yeah, this is
the
the day after my surgery. That was the worst mud job of. Actually, it might be the best I ever did, because I don't even remember that moment. I just remember I told her, I said, take me to town. She's not done that mud.
It was a fight. I took him to town.
Yeah, muddy. Well, listen, I'm terrible at it. But there's the next church. Looks like Pastor Dozen had a rough day bossing us around.
My guess is it's probably about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
about that
we
time.
spent a lot of time there, and things started just changing at that moment in our walk. There's the working on the stage in the old church, and one of our services, I don't think the first.
It's the first.
The first service there. And then things really changed for me, I'll be honest with you guys, at Encounter. Went to my first encounter. There was some stuff I had been fighting for a long time. I got called to preach when I was a teenager in that old church, believe it or not, because it was Assembly Church during a youth rally. I remember it plain as day. God's like, you're going to preach and teach the word. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I was probably 15, 16. I'm like, I'm not even positive I'm saved. I thought that till I was 20-something. But I went to Encounter, and there's some things I knew I had to get right in my life. Number one, I had to be a leader in my home that I was not at all, not even remotely. Like she said, when she would try to talk about something, I would
Shut down.
Shake my head, but that was it.
Shut down.
I had chewed for a long, long time. I wanted to give that up. The Lord took that away from me on the bus ride to camp. When I stepped my foot off, it was gone. I haven't chewed since. Not even. I was one of the. I just literally didn't even have the desire since then. But I knew even at that encounter, that I heard the Lord saying, "You're gonna be preaching." I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I promise, I am not.
And here is Hayden surrendering to preach.
There's my on the same stage. Like I said, it's so cool how God works. Like, that is literally the stage where the gentleman was standing when I was walking through. They had a prayer thing at the end of a service, and they had all the adults kind of like a little walkway, and they were just praying as the kids walked through it. And now it was in that church when I was 16, I heard, "You're going to preach." And then it was on that stage where I finally surrendered that day and started that process. And so here we are now.
This is where it gets fun, because we started having a real relationship with Jesus and not with people.
Yeah, this is where literally we went all in.
We went all in.
But honestly, she had been all in a long, long time. The change was when I went all in, honestly.
Yeah.
But she did too.
Yeah, it was much different. We started, when he came back, he prayed over me for the first time in our whole marriage. He had never prayed over me. So it was awesome. It really was. I wasn't expecting anything, I guess, so I was in the stands. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Encounter, but I was standing in the stands waiting for him, and he said, "Get down here." And I thought, well, that's weird, because he's not assertive ever. And
easygoing.
He's very easygoing, like Holden. They're just chill. And he said, "Get down here." And he grabbed my face, and he cried, and he said, "I am so, so sorry that I've never prayed over you." He said, "I have let you down. I haven't led our family. And he said, you've been praying and trying for so many years to get me to do this. And he said, I'm so sorry that I never did. And he grabbed my head and he prayed over me for the first time. And it is a powerful thing, man. It is a powerful thing. You're scared. You think you're going to say the wrong thing. You don't want to look stupid, but I promise you, all they want is for you to say, Lord, I pray that you just be with Tara today. I pray for her strength. I pray for her walk. They don't want fancy words. I promise. They just want the act. They want the act. Yep. They want to know that you're taking them to the Lord for them.
Yeah.
It's important.
You know, honestly, I told you guys I wouldn't have prayed in front of the church, but after I prayed over her, all that was gone.
Yeah.
Like Dustin could have said, hey, you want to preach Wednesday night? I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah. He was.
Let's go.
So a funny story about this, just maybe 2 years before this, I so badly wanted him to pray with me, so badly. I found a book that said Couples That Pray Together. I don't know if anybody's ever read that book, but he was doing photography, so he would be on the computer for hours working on pictures. And I said, hey, I found this book. Would you want to read it with me? So I spent days, I'm telling days, after the kids went to bed, I would read chapters of this book to him. While he worked on pictures, I would read out loud and out loud and out loud. And finally, after about 5 days, we got done with the book, and I shut it, and I said, so what do you think? That's that famous word, you know, what do you think? And he said, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. That was good.
Sounds good.
And I said, well, do you think we could start praying together before we go to bed? Sure.
Silently.
Tonight? Yeah, we will. And so that had been 2 years.
I got around to it. It just took a couple years.
It took 2 years for that to happen. We started studying our Bible together.
Yes.
And if you guys have been here for Hayden's teachings, you can see how much he studies when he preaches. And that is not studying alone a lot of the times. A lot of times he's texting me, hey, I've just read this. What do you think? And I'll text him things like, hey, I just heard this concept. What do you think? And we're constantly talking about what we're reading, what we're learning, what we've heard. That's like the big bulk of our conversation now. So we started Bible study together. We started faithfully attending church. Not just when we wanted to. We started making that the biggest priority, is making sure we were doing that together.
Yep. And we started getting plugged in, fellowshipping mainly with other believers, still working on churches. There we are.
We pulled some of our lake friends with us and said,
yeah, there's some of them.
They're coming along. So James and Shelley's story, I bet they're sitting here thinking, this is our story too. Because they were right there with us the whole time.
There's one of the early services in this church. Once we got it ready, got it going, we started talking to our kids about Jesus and the Bible finally, even though they were pretty well grown, but that's okay. It's never too late. So we started talking to them about stuff. I bounced stuff. London is in Bible college, so I bounced stuff off him because he's hearing stuff that I've never heard in my life. He's saying words. I'm like, I don't know what that word means, dude, but it sounds cool.
And if you guys know Holden, he's not much of a talker.
No.
He's a little more of a listener.
Yeah.
So he
really
listened a little bit,
But yeah, we started getting plugged in, started going to do stuff with other believers, started, living life with each other, and it changes everything. It really does.
Yeah, we faithfully tithe. We've been doing this for years. We added offerings too. The Lord has worked miracles in our finances. That's a whole nother story, but we started doing that. We served consistency, but we want to talk about the changes we saw. So the things we did: prayed together, Bible study, attending church, plugged in with fellowship and other believers, tithed, talked to our kids and our family, we served. But this is what we saw. Mm-hmm. We saw peace in our house.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not fighters. We don't really fight a lot or anything. But I am a very passionate person.
That's a good word to use. Yeah.
I am stubborn.
Steve, that's a good word to use, isn't it, Steve? Yeah. Her dad's sitting right there. That's a real good word to use.
I'm stubborn. I'm like it my way. I saw all that change. Mm-hmm. I started getting Jesus in me, and he started changing me from the inside out. And suddenly the things that used to be important about fighting about were not important anymore. Yeah. There was just so much more peace. There was peace in my heart, which made peace in our marriage, which made peace with our kids a little bit better. I learned how to be a mother-in-law for the first time, and the first part of it, I was not good because it was before I had found the real peace of Jesus. And then once I did, I started learning a little bit better, and I got better, and now I have an amazing relationship with both my daughter-in-laws that I'm super thankful for.
She finally got daughters.
I finally got daughters.
Just one's from Texas and one's from Delaware.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
they came from the world to find us, but...
yeah, and then we had a lot of changes happen. Tara had been at the school for
22 years.
22 years. I've been at Seamano now for 26, 7, whatever. Had some circumstances at my job where my boss actually got really sick quick, and they thought I was the right person for the job. So I started a new job there in management, more so, and got off the line before my body was completely broke down, which was a blessing. But it also frees up some time in front of the computer during the day that I do study at the office. And I'll be honest, my boss has walked in with Bibles across the desk, and he just talks to me about it. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed in that aspect of it. My work always gets done for sure, but there's a lot of study time, especially lunch. I get an hour-long lunch. It takes me, if I eat lunch, it usually takes me about 4 minutes.
Yeah, he eats faster than any human being possible.
No, Eddie cut him faster, but still, he's not here. But so I got extra time to do stuff, to study, and so she was telling me she was feeling like she was called to come work at the church, walk away from a job, I mean, why not get a master's and then go to work at the church? I mean, so she has a master's degree, but she started working here, and I honestly, the worldly things was like, well, it's going to be tough to make it. Like, I mean, not that we're not going to make it, but, things will be a little tighter, and it absolutely could not be farther from the truth.
No, it made it easier. I don't know how. It doesn't make sense on paper, but it's easier now.
Yeah, it's made so much difference. The job changes. Listen, all you school teachers out there, bless your heart. I don't know how you guys do it. I want you to know we're praying for you. Yeah. It's tough. And I know it's getting tougher every year. Yeah. So we're praying for you guys. But she got out of the school system and works here now a couple days a week. Does all the finances, keeps things going, tells me that the tech budget's busted all the time.
We put everything on tech because that's Hayden's.
They buy like toilet paper, like put it on tech. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. The tech budget's my budget, so that's why I say that.
We focus on different things than we used to. We used to focus more on entertainment and what we wanted, and now we focus more on relationships and serving and just knowing the Lord better, that relationship with Him. Yeah. Of course, we started the church in our home, and the best part is...
Well, that's not the best part. That is not the best part,
sorry.
Okay?
These are our people.
These are people we've been serving with.
But I watched Hayden go on a missions trip and preach to people in a foreign country, and best, we got to watch our kids go on missions trips. So Lennon and Mackenzie went to the Dominican.
Lennon almost died.
Yeah,
not to tell you not to go on a missions trip, but he almost died.
Yeah, and then
hepatitis got him, so he can tell you that story. And then Holden went to
Alaska to build
Rural Ranger campground, wasn't it?
Campgrounds.
To remodel Rural Ranger campground with the Assemblies of God.
So we got to see our kids following, and if anybody in here knows, that's the best feeling in the whole wide world, is to know your kids know, and now we get to watch the next generation and raise our next generation up to follow the Lord and to do things right from the beginning and not have to go through, the wheels that we turned to get to where we are. But
yeah, I'm hoping my kids don't go through the same path I do. They may. But the thing is, I talk about all the time, it's so important to raise your kids up in it because they will not depart from it.
Yeah.
They almost always, always, always come back. So it's important to have your kids at church. It's important to have them from a baby on, even when it's tough. I mean, I remember Holden crying in the nursery. Well, I wasn't in there, but I heard about it.
I was in there.
Actually, it wasn't a very big church. I think I heard him crying. But no, it's very important to raise up the next generation. Because we said it last week, there's kids over there right now that's going to be leading this church someday.
Yeah.
They're going to be preaching here. They're going to be leading this church. So that's us.
That's us.
Thank you. Now, the hard part is I get to preach just a little bit. I won't keep you guys too long because that was a lot right there. But, all in. I told Dustin, I'm like, you could go anywhere in the Bible. That person was either all in or all out. Or, fence riders in the Bible. Them people were all in or they were all out. And so I went to one of my favorite stories of Abraham. And so we run across Abraham back in Genesis. London, he looked at the computer. He's like, man, you're only in Genesis? I said, yep, pretty much. But we run across this man named Abram in chapter 11 of Genesis. And we read he comes from the descendants of Shem, which is one of Noah's sons. And so we come across Abram. If you guys remember, Noah and his sons, all 8, were the only ones saved through the flood. Through the judgment of the flood, they were the only ones saved. And so Abram comes from this. We read that in 11. He comes from the descendants of Shem. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Everybody comes from. So just think about that. All this comes from that. Chapter 12, we find Abram. He journeys to Egypt due to a famine in the land with his wife and his nephew Lot. Another name that's probably you're already thinking, I know that name. He tells Sarai, which is his wife, that he is scared because she's so beautiful that we need to lie to Pharaoh. Not real smart to lie, right? But his wife is so beautiful that he thinks he needs to lie to Pharaoh. And so we come across this story in Genesis 12:17. And Pharaoh, the Lord, struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. The Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was my sister? So Pharaoh had taken her for his own because he lied. And so this is this Abram guy. We go on in the story in chapter 13. And him and Lot travel back to Bethel. They get in this land of Bethel, and they have so much livestock, both of them, that the land can't sustain them. They got to split them up. And so Abram goes one way and Lot goes towards Sodom. We know that don't turn out well for Lot, right? So Lot goes towards Sodom. Didn't end well. We go on to chapter 14. There was a war that broke out, and they was in the land where Lot lived, and there's this huge war, and they captured Lot, all his stuff, all his people. Abram finds out, sends his people, fights, wins, gets Lot's stuff back, gets Lot back. Chapter 15, we're still talking about Abram, and he's promised a son. And he's promised this son, but he's not just promised a son. In 17, verse 5, the angel of the Lord takes him outside. He says, and he, capitalized, took him outside and said, now look towards the heavens and count the stars, if you're able to count them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. Abram is getting old. He's getting promised of a son, not just a son, but a whole multitude of descendants as much as the stars. In chapter 16, we see that Sarai still has borne him no child, still. So she brings in Hagar, her maid. And Hagar lays with him. They have Ishmael's born. So he's got this son born Ishmael to a maid, Hagar. Verse 17, Abram's now 99 years old. And there's this covenant that comes along of circumcision. We don't have to go into that, do we, Dustin? Circumcision? Wait. Is she still here? Remember? Circumcision and squirrel in a basket, or what was it? We used to have a lady that would do sign language, and Dustin kept preaching about circumcision, and she kept doing it. It's the only thing I know. It's the only thing I learned that day. But so we come across this covenant of circumcision, and he changes his name from Abram to Abraham. Everything changes. Sarai to Sarah. And once again, he says, I'm going to give you a son through her. And what does Abram do? What me and you would do. When the Lord said, you're going to plant a church in your house, you know what I did? I fell on my face and laughed. I'm going to make you preach the gospel and make you teach the word. You know what I did? I laughed. Ain't no way that's going to happen. Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, will a child be born to a man 100 years old? And will Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? He laughed. God says that he's going to do a covenant with this son. He says, I'm going to have a covenant. You name him Isaac. We get to chapter 18, the birth of Isaac is promised again. The Lord appeared and told Sarah. This time Sarah laughs. It's like when we talked and we told Sarah, hey, we're starting church in the basement. No, you're not. I'm not inviting people here. Yeah, Sarah laughed. I'm not going to have a baby born. There's no way. I'm way too old. Chapter 21, Isaac's born. And Sarah turns on Hagar, kicks her out. Kicks out Hagar and Ishmael. She's finally got her son. So Abraham has been through a lot. He's been through so much. He's lied. He's done things that aren't right. He's done things that God told him to do. He laughed at God. He did all these things, but the promised son still came. And so here, where we're at today, in chapter 22, 1 through 13, I want it to play for us. I think that channel's unmuted. I think it'll play. It did not play. We'll go back because man, it's not been nice, guys. I was going to play it for you because once again, it reads so much better than me.
Now it came to pass.
I'm not being very patient today, am I? Yeah, this is fun. We do this on Wednesday night. If you guys want to come to Bible study, that's how we do it. We fight with electronics, and then we have a good time. I'm not even going to look at it because I don't even have it down here. Yeah, I do. All right. We'll just read it if it's not going to work. There we go.
Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham.
Abraham,
Here I am.
take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you.
So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose, and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men,
Stay here with the donkey. The lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you.
So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham his father.
My father,
Here I am, my son.
look, the fire and the wood. But where is the lamb for a burnt offering?
My son. God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering.
So the 2 of them went together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built an altar there, and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar, upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven,
Abraham, Abraham.
Here I am.
Do not lay your hand on the lad, or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me.
Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son.
That's all in. You guys listen to that story? Like, that happened. It's not just a story in the Bible. That happened. And so I only got 4 points, and we got 5 minutes, so listen up. Key principles of going all in. Radical commitment. Radical commitment. Look at verse 2 and 3. Take your son, your only son. Go and offer him as a burnt offering. Don't let's go see what happens. You take your son, the one you love, and you go kill him. You go burn him on the mountain. That's radical commitment. It's radical commitment for somebody to say, you drop your family where they're at, don't understand how your kids are going to eat, and go start a church because you're working every night, remodeling a church every 2 weeks because I'm going to move you every 2 weeks. I'm not saying it's right what I did, not knowing what my kids were eating, but God said go. We've watched people change their life here. We watched people get saved here. Would he have done it through somebody else? He can do whatever he wants. But I've got to be a part of it because of radical commitment. It says Abram rose early. He didn't wait. He rose early. He split the wood that he's going to kill his son on. He split the wood for the burnt offering. That's radical commitment. It wasn't a small walk. He was at Beersheba, and he had to walk all the way to Mount Moriah. If you look at the map, it's a long ways. He had a long time to think about this decision, and he never once turned on it. Radical commitment. Second principle, going all in, a willingness to face sacrifice or a risk. Verse 5, Abraham told the young men that went with him, I and the lad will go over there. You guys stay here. He laid the wood on Isaac, his son. The wood that he's getting ready to kill his son on, he made him carry his own wood up the mountain. He takes the hand of fire and the knife, and they walk together. He was willing to sacrifice it all for the Lord. I look back and I feel bad for leaving my kids, like, didn't know where they were half the time. Luckily, I had good kids and they were sitting at home playing video games. But had to be a sacrifice or a risk. How many of you are in ministries where there's a risk? Brooks, how much of a sacrifice just yesterday was there to make that happen? You got to take willingness. You got to face sacrifice, face risk to do what God's calling us to do. That's all in. Number 3, an unwavering faith and trust in God. Isaac spoke to Abraham, his son. He said, Father, behold the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? What did he say? God will provide. At this moment in his life, at this moment of this trip, he is still under the impression he is going to sacrifice his own son. But what's he say? God will do it. God will provide. That's an unwavering faith. That's an unwavering trust in God. Listen, he is the God of everything. If he says it, he's going to do it. Abraham knows this. Number 4, the principle of going all in, a public testimony. What kind of a public testimony was this? He probably needed the public testimony when he got back to Sarah. When he got back to the mama, and she found out he took her only son to sacrifice him on the mountain, he needed a public testimony, or she was going to kill him, right? And he come to the place which God had told him, and Abraham built the altar there. He arranged the wood. You guys realize this is no little kid. They said that Isaac is probably anywhere from 12 to 17 years old. He willingly went to the altar. He willingly got tied up for the burnt offering. He was big enough, he probably could have took his old man. I still tell my kids they can't take me. They know they can take me. They just respect me enough not to try. Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife, still thinking, man, is this really what you want, God? There's so many times in this church, but so many times in my life, I've heard, like, you're going to preach the word. I grab the knife. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to cut that off. I think you're wrong. Abraham was willing to go all in. This public testimony come out of this. The angel of the Lord calls. He says, here I am. He said, don't stretch your hand against the lad. and he gives him the ram. He gives him the ram caught in the thicket by the horns in the last moment. Sometimes when you go all in, you feel like you're at the end of your rope. You feel like this is it. I can't go no farther. This is it. I'm going to have to sacrifice this. And God usually always shows up. If he is in it, if he has opened the door, he's going to keep the door open. If you're trying to push it and he closes the door, he's going to keep it shut. And you're going to end up sacrificing your own son. But if he's in it, he's going to keep that door open. He's going to give you that last second. Because why? It's that public testimony you're going to have. There's a public testimony of me and Tara right there going all in. We've been together since forever. 7th grade. But life is so much different the last 4 years because mainly, be honest with you guys, mainly because I went all in. She was already all in most of her life. What was lacking was me. That's the public testimony we have now, that we went all in. He changed things. He changed everything. Would you do what we're read here? Would you do this? Would you take off across the desert with your one and only son, the one you love, when God said, take him to this mountain, bound him up, cut his neck, and burn him? Abraham didn't waver. He knew God would provide. He was all in. He was all in. It changes everything when you go all in. The way we did things starting this church, we've been to a few conferences. Everything we did was absolutely wrong. Everything we did was according to people that plant churches. Everything was wrong. But when God said to do it, we've just done it. When he said to sacrifice home time to remodel a church, it's happened. When he said to sacrifice your life over to preaching and teaching the word, it's happened. When we asked Dustin to sacrifice a comfortable job in a church in Mountain Grove where everything was great, Dustin's like, all right, I'll do it. We look at these stories in the Bible and we have these stories in our life. We don't realize it till you really start looking back, but you have them in your own life. Have you ever read this story right here and looked at how much of a beautiful picture it is of a whole different story in the Bible? Have you ever read the story of Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac and really put it in perspective? God decided he's going to save a whole people. He tells Abraham, I'm going to save a whole people through this multitude of descendants. I'm going to send a person through all this. I'm going to save the Israelite people through you. We're going to have a miraculous birth from a woman that's too old to have it. We're going to have a supernatural birth through you and this lady that the world can't understand what's happening, to save a people. Sarah's too old. Abraham's too old. And there's a promised son. Did you guys hear what it said there? Not just a promised son, but a promised only son. An only son that carries his own wood up the mountain to a sacrifice. It's a story of Jesus. It's a story of our lives. It's a story of our redemption. And he's promised this inheritance through Jacob, from Isaac to Jacob. He said, I'm going to save this whole people. They're living in a crazy time. There's these falls. These people do not like each other. And he said, I'm going to redeem a whole people, and everybody's going to come back to me through this one person. Later in Scripture, we find about another supernatural birth, right? An only son come through a Virgin Mary. Our only hope to redeem a whole people, to go all in with him. We look at Matthew 1:23. Behold, a virgin shall be with child and bear his son, and they'll call his name Emmanuel. He stepped into our story. He stepped into your story. How can you not go all in for him? If you ever truly thought what he did for you on that cross, how could you not go all in for him? How could we not be like Abram, who became Abraham, and have that much trust? He stepped into the story so we could find hope now. This gets thrown around all the time, but seriously, just read that. Read it. Think about it. How could I not go all in for him? As you've heard what what I was holding back. If you've heard all these stories how I was not all in, I want you to literally survey yourself right now. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. The first all in has to be your heart. The rest of the all ins don't matter. You can do everything you want and try to be good. You can do everything you want and try to lead a ministry. If you have not surrendered yourself to him through his blood, the rest of it's a moot point. It's just, why are you messing with it? If you've not given your life over, if you've not had that blood shed for you, you can't go all in. If you've already done that, what is God asking you to go all in for? What is he asking you to go all in? Is it your marriage? Is it your relationships? Is it church? Is it serving? Is it another ministry? What is it? What's he asked you to go all in? And you're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to be like Abram. There's no way a 100-year-old man's going to have a baby. I did it my whole life. There's no way this stupid hick from Wright County is going to preach the word. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. I had every excuse there was until I said, I'm all in. Let's see what you can do. I've seen it in my family, in my life. London gets up here on Wednesday night and helps teach his Bible study in Revelation and does a really good job. Why? Because we decided to go all in. He's deciding to go all in. That's how the Lord steps in. For what he did for me on that cross, how could I not go all in? Like, if you truly think about what happened, that God sent his only Son to step into our eternity to change everything for each one of us in this room, how could you not go all in for him? How could you be too selfish with your time not to go all in? Peter was crucified upside down. All he had to do was deny the truth. Paul was beheaded. Andrew was crucified on an X cross, sideways. Thomas was speared to death in India. James was stoned to death. Bartholomew, they flayed him alive like a fish. Philip was stoned to death. Matthew was killed by the sword. Jude was shot with arrows. Simon was sawed in half. Matthias was martyred. John was boiled in oil, lived through that, and died, the only one that died a natural death in a prison on Patmos. That's all in. Are you even remotely there? Most of my life, I'm not. Every one of them, all they had to do was deny that Jesus Christ was who he said he was, and those things wouldn't have happened. Guys, Jesus is who he said he was. These men were all in for the gospel. You could go and study the book of martyrs. These people are all in for the gospel. They're all in to spread the gospel. They're all in their lives. And so as we're going to altar, I just ask you just to survey your life. What do I need to go all in? Is it in my relationship with the Lord? Is it in my relationship with my family? There is no better time than today. It changes everything. It literally changes everything. Is there still hard times? Absolutely. Have we still seen crazy trials? Absolutely. But just like when Abraham was sitting there with a knife getting ready to stab his own son, God shows up. He shows up just in the nick of time. The altar is yours.